Hey everybody, welcome back to the Reclamation Podcast. I'm so excited to bring you today's episode with Ennegram expert David Charpentier. David is a veteran and a friend of mine, and we sat down and talked all about the Enneagram and what it means in life and how to relate to people, and it was just so much fun. If you don't know anything about the Enneagram, this is a very basic overview, but like anything else, the deeper you go down the hole, the more and more you'll uncover. It's a tool, right? Like anything else, it's a tool. You don't want to treat it like the gospel because it's not, but it is something that's kind of fun, and it was a great conversation. We use the Enneagram in our office, and it has been super helpful to get to know people's motivations and how they see the world. So I think you're going to love this episode with David. He brings such a very sound and practical voice to this conversation. So also, this is the last episode of the month of January, which means that at the end of this month, we will be picking a winner of our contest. If you haven't signed up yet at twmilt.com, twmilt.com, we would love to get you entered in to win one of the books of the incredible authors that we've had on the podcast this month. And really over the next couple months, because February 2, Josh Gagnon will be on, Charles Causey will be on, some incredible writers who are putting out great content. So sign up for the contest. We're going to pick one winner. Actually, we might pick several winners because we got several books to give away. We'd love to get a book into your hands, and who doesn't love free books? All right, without any further ado, here's my conversation with David. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Reclamation Podcast. I'm excited to bring you today's feature conversation with a newfound friend of mine, David Charpentier. And David does a lot of things. Hello, David. It's good to be with you today.
Hey, Tony. It's good to be here. Thank you.
So you have an interesting story. I thought maybe that would be a good place to start. You're like me, an Army veteran, which thank you for your service.
My pleasure, and thank you.
How did you get to where you are in life in the Reader's Digest version?
I grew up in Minnesota. I enlisted in the Army Reserve. I graduated college through ROTC, spent 6 years on active duty. I was a nuclear, biological, and chemical officer. I was incredibly fortunate to also be able to attend and graduate from U.S. Army Ranger School, Airborne School. When I completed my service, I moved to the Cincinnati area, worked in sales and operations, because, Army officers are in high demand when we get out because of our fabulous leadership skills.
That's right.
Running joke with some friends of mine. Really enjoyed doing the sales side of things, and met my wife. We both worked a lot, so I kind of backed off. Did some part-time consulting, was a stay-at-home dad full-time. I got certified to teach yoga. Also became certified as an executive coach and as an Enneagram practitioner in the narrative tradition, which is what I use today in a consulting practice to help people, executives, organizations understand themselves better, be better communicators, better leaders, be better at solving conflict, just be overall more self-aware. I'm also really grateful I've had an opportunity to do that with Camp Southern Ground, which is Zach Brown Band's camp that he established. This is a little plug for what he does, but he has a summer camp for kids of all ages and abilities. So it welcomes kids with special needs and normal functioning kids. And then they went, holy cow, we've got this incredible place. We use it like crazy in the summer. What do we do the rest of the time? So Zach now, the camp hosts veterans for 1 week intensive to help give them skills in assistance in transition, which you understand transition is not always easy for some of us.
Most times not easy.
Most times not easy. It's a significant transition. Anyway, I'm fortunate enough I'm able to coach folks who have completed that program, and I'm also doing some coaching for an organization called Gallant Few, which I love their message. Their purpose is to help veterans live lives full of hope and purpose.
I love it. And one of the things that instantly drew me to you is that I believe that so many of us are called to live our life with more purpose and more intentionality and figuring out ways to connect with some self-awareness. And that's one of the gifts I think about the Enneagram.
Yeah.
But one of the questions I have is, for someone who may not have heard it before, how would you summarize what the Enneagram is? Because in Christian circles right now, it's taken off like wildfire. It's hot.
Yeah.
It's so hot. So what is the Enneagram at the idiot level?
The Enneagram is a personality system that has 9 types. So Ennea is a Greek word for 9. Gram is Greek word for picture, and it describes 9 ways that we habitually think, feel, and behave, and the motivations underneath those. So it helps us identify which one of these 9 types we habitually think, feel, and behave in.
Now, my understanding is that this is not a new practice. It's just become popular. What's the history of the Enneagram? Because I think it gives it a little bit more validity than some of the other thought processes around this sort of thing.
So the Enneagram has roots in ancient traditions, and in really all ancient religious traditions, there's conversations around kind of this practice. But really, in the 70s, in Chile, in the Erica School, which was a spiritual school, Claudia Naranjo essentially took and overlaid the 9 types and gave each type structure that was brought back to the United States in the 70s in Stanford circles with individuals like Dr. David Daniels and Helen Palmer, Russ Hudson, Dan Rizzo, who really are the kind of the grandfathers, so to speak, of what is today the modern Enneagram, the 9 distinct personality types.
So I want to get into the 9 distinct types in just a moment, but let me ask you this first. How has the Enneagram changed your life in terms of how you see yourself and how you operate with those that are most important?
The Enneagram itself hasn't changed me a bit, right? What the Enneagram did is help me see my patterns.
Wow.
And what my experience is, when I see something and I know something, then I can't unknow it, and it's incumbent upon me to make the change. It's just a tool to help us see.
Yeah, so it's not a miracle tool.
No,
it's just another
we have to
tool.
work. Yeah,
Right.
It's just another tool. A hammer is a great tool, but it only works if we use it. And so the Enneagram, no different. I can see it, but unless I do some actual work to make changes, it just sits there.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because one of the kind of the knocks on this whole thing is that it's really easy to go down this Enneagram hole and get super deep. And but it's just a tool. There are lots of tools out there.
Yeah.
And if, to your hammer point, if the only tool you have is a hammer, the entire world starts to look like a nail.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of holistic in the sense that this is just one of the tools. But
Yeah.
it is.
I find it to be.
It's a big one.
It's a big one. It is robust, and it's nuanced. It has depth. It has breadth. So I find it to be a really powerful tool. So maybe a hammer isn't the tool analogy I would use, but it is. I find it to be, for me, it's been probably the most helpful tool to give me insight on who I am.
Okay, take us through the numbers. Make us Enneagram smart.
Okay. So can I? I'm going to give a couple caveats.
Yeah, caveat away.
Caveat away. All
It's
right.
your world.
We are incredibly complex as animals. There are so many things that go into who we are, our history, our culture, our experiences, our traumas, our celebrations. All of those things shape, form, impact who we are. We have instinctual drives that have been a part of who we are as beings for a long time. So if you think about how dogs interact in packs, we have that same social drive, how we parent, how we create social bonds. We have drives that help ensure we maintain the species, right? We have
Right.
sexual
Yeah,
drives.
we all have sex drives. Right, right.
We have self-protection drives that help ensure we have security, money, housing, just physical safety, security. All of those influence and come before personality, if you think about those things. The other thing I would say as a caveat before we start is this isn't a parlor game, right? So when people learn about it, typically the first thing they want to do is figure out what somebody else's type is. And what I would say is figure out your own and don't identify as that. Don't say, oh, I'm a blank, so I do this. Say, this is the place that I spend my time. How do I recognize that, see it, and begin to make conscious choice rather than the habitual choice?
Yeah, so in other words, it's your number is not an excuse
to be that
for behavior. So,
yes.
so I mean, I don't mind telling you, and I think we've talked about it before. I'm an 8.
Yes.
And so part of that is that in the 8 world, from my understanding, is sometimes we can be a little too brash for our own good, and that's a growing edge in my life. And I actually knew that before I knew I was an 8, because people tell me that sometimes I'm a bully.
Yeah.
And so, but I think your point is well taken, that this is, again, it's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. It's a tool. Okay.
All right. So I sometimes let's just go by numbers.
Okay.
So we'll start with type 1.
Yeah.
Some Enneagram teachers or many Enneagram teachers put a word associated with a type. I think that can be helpful sometimes for memory recollection, but I don't want people to attach too much to
Yeah,
this.
it's deeper than just a word.
Just a word.
Right.
So type 1 sometimes is called the perfectionist.
Sure.
Type 1 has kind of a gut instinctual approach to life. They have a really strong moral sense internal, a really strong internal measuring stick by which they judge primarily themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes one will take that and try to place it on others, but really it's a strong internal stick by which they measure what is right and what is wrong. Anger is an underlying issue for type 1s. They typically repress or suppress that anger. That builds. You can oftentimes 1s they'll talk about when anger happens for them, they can feel it physically stiffen them. They'll sit up straighter. Their jaw will be clenched. But they keep that anger down typically because letting that out isn't okay. It's not right.
Right, because it's not perfect.
Right. Yeah.
It's,
And
it's not. Yeah.
I have to manage that anger. So for 1s, another way 1s will talk about themselves is that there's constantly a voice in their head. A lot of should, must, ought to, have to. I need, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I like to say, it's not okay to should on yourself.
Right.
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 It's a powerful driver for them, and that is omnipresent. 1s they know how things are supposed to be done, and they will work tirelessly to make that happen. In a job arena, they don't need to be told they did something wrong. They typically already know. They've already done 8 things to try to correct it, to minimize it. I like to use the analogy of like a bullhorn.
Yeah.
For some types, you talk through the small end of the bullhorn, and it's really loud on the other end. If you can imagine a type 1, the slightest whisper sounds like that. So, hey, this was maybe not done as well as it could have. To the type 1, that sounds like you absolutely messed this up. You are rotten and horrible. I can't believe you made this egregious mistake. So it gets amplified. Yeah, it really gets amplified. Where 1s are really powerful and really strong is they have that super strong internal character, and they will do things right. They'll do right. And, I'm doing air quotes.
Right.
I love those air quotes on podcasts, but it's about doing it right. So they will do things right to the best of their ability, and very strong in that stance.
If you're in a relationship with a 1 or are a 1, what's the one thing we can do to be better in that relationship?
If you're in relationship with a 1, remember that amplification. So to give them feedback, you have to really be gentle. Really be gentle. For type 1s, the big area for them in life, in relationship, is to understand that things are okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
And it's easy for us to say that. For them, it's not. It's really difficult for them to rest and relax and give themselves a break, to be playful, to have some of that spontaneity.
Space.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it's important for them to do that.
All right, so then we head right to 2.
Right? Yeah, type 2.
Type 2.
It's type 2, sometimes called the giver or the provider.
Sure.
Kind of an underlying belief for type 2 is I get value, or I get love, or I get my sense of worth by giving, meeting other people's needs. Often, and you can, just the so we can recognize that can be problematic for folks. That
Sure.
I give too much of myself. I don't have my own sense of self, and I don't understand my own needs. 2s also are incredibly compassionate and really good at understanding other people's needs.
So does it make sense that we would often see a 2 in the caretaking field, like nurses?
They certainly can be in that space. Yeah. I know. Obviously, anybody can be any type, but yeah, they like to take care of people. They like to take care of people's needs. I've talked to type 2s in different arenas where I walk in and 2 will look at me and say, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Hey, get out of my space." And they're right. They have an intuitive sense. Where a 2 can get in trouble is if they project onto others and don't allow them to actually feel themselves what's going on. They can get prideful in that and think they know what others need when they really have no idea what they need themselves. So, you talk about in a relationship, it's really important for a 2 to take time to pause, reflect, and know what it is they need, and not always be focused on what somebody else needs. It can be exhausting for 2s because they're always wondering what other people need. What do I need to take care of for somebody else? And they can get resentful then if people aren't doing that back for them. Well, I do all of this for you. How come you're not taking care of me? Because most of us don't know what you need because you don't even know what you need.
Because you're always taking care of us.
Obviously, sometimes, not sometimes, but I'm giving some extremes.
Sure.
They're right. We're all on this beautiful scale of different levels of awareness of what's happening for us or not happening for us. These are just things for a 2 you need to look out for.
So if you're in a relationship with a 2, what's the one gift that we can give them?
Presence, time. Say, what do you need?
Just ask them straight up.
What do you need?
What do you need?
And they're going to say, well, I'm not going to say this is what they will say. I've asked that of 2s. Well, I'm really thinking about what so-and-so or what needs to happen here. No, what do you need?
Yeah, kind of lean into it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm here to, help meet your need. What do you need? And it's really, it can be really difficult for a 2 to know that. So just to sit, give them the space, keep coming back. What do you need? How can I be of service to you?
Yeah, I like that. Be kind of relentless in the pursuit of getting to know the inner 2, so to speak.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so 3.
Type 3, sometimes known as the doer.
Yeah, sometimes I've heard it called the performer.
The performer, the achiever. type 3s. So 2s, it's kind of that, hey, I need to give to get. 3s, it's I need to do. I need to accomplish to get. 2s, we talk about 2s pretty in tune with feelings of others.
Yeah.
3s, they're just not in tune with feelings. They do to suppress feeling. I like to give an example. It was a hot July day. My wife and I are, she says, hey, we need to go weed the garden. Okay. And we walk outside and it's, 86 degrees and 120% humidity. And I'm standing out there just sweating while we're digging weeds out of the garden. And I'm like, man, this sucks. And she stops and she's like, whoa, my wife identifies as type 3. This does suck. I didn't even think about that. It was just on my to-do list. So I was just getting it done. No awareness of what she was feeling. So
Wow.
3s typically are suppressing feelings by just doing. And but they're incredibly competent.
They're sometimes like workhorses, right? In your
They are.
organization,
Yeah,
like if
for
you've
sure.
got some 3s and
Image is a big thing.
Yeah.
For type 3s to and they can morph and lose some of their identity because they are morphing to what the idea of success looks like. Madonna, the pop icon.
Yeah.
If you took and looked at Madonna through the years, which probably the last 40 years she's been, or maybe 30 plus years, some type of pop icon. But if you just Google image her, you can see kind of what success looks like, or what that can look like for her. Michael Jordan, these folks who can be incredible.
Competitive. Yeah.
Image is really important. So for 3s, it's really important to be. And it's also really difficult to be, because if they sit,
like be still,
right? When they do that, guess what comes up? Feeling.
All the stuff,
right?
And I feel uncomfortable for him right now.
Like, oh no, my God, So the realization for them is to sit, let that stuff come up, and understand that they are not, they are so much more than what they do.
So then, is the gift, if we're in a relationship with a 3, is the gift to just be with them in the stillness and not expect anything from them?
Yeah, that can be. And encourage them, ask them to be with you.
Now, does it work if you challenge a 3 to be still? Can you use their tendency? It feels a little bit like a manipulation, but
yeah. So I think 3s can look at things at times as everything's a competition.
Right.
So hey, I'm going to be the best beer I can be, and right. I'm going to watch me. I'm going to So just a recognition that they are beautiful just for who they are, not what they've accomplished, not because they're the best this or the best that, or they're just, all of us have innate value. There's an Enneagram teacher, and I love how he has described this. If you think about a baby, if you're in a crowded room and somebody walks in holding a 3-week-old, the room stops and it's transfixed on this infant, because we recognize the value of this person. Just right
in the space, right? Yeah.
All of us have that. All of us have that value, and for 3s to go, inherently, I already have value. I'm not a type 3, I'm a type 7, but I hear that and go, yeah, but if all of us can struggle with that.
Right.
But so this can help us, we talk about the Enneagram, it can help us find that path, that map back to really being okay inside our own skin.
So let me ask you this question before we move on to 4s. Because this has come up a lot in the people that I've been talking about this idea with, the Enneagram as the idea. I identify as an 8, but my second number on the tests, and I used air quotes for tests because the Enneagram is really a lot more than a test. And so it is a 3. I often wonder if in a season of my life, if I didn't identify as a 3 and then move to an 8, or is it a health and unhealth thing? What are your thoughts on changing numbers?
My belief and predominantly in the Enneagram community, your type is your type.
Yeah.
You if you think about our personality as a map.
Sure.
Our type is the city we live in. We know it. We know the back roads. We know the side streets. We know the major thoroughfares, all of those things. We may know routes or ways to get to other cities.
Sure.
And when we get to that city, we might know a few things in that city, but we don't know it like our home base. We don't know the side streets. We don't know all of the dark alleyways. We don't. So, but we can get there. So yeah, it's not right. We're all, you and I have explored on the faith side, but if you think about, I mean, from a Christian or Judeo-Christian standpoint, we're made in the image of God.
Right.
So we are not just one type. We have all of the types. I mean, the image of God is this whole beautiful piece. We have just chosen a coping egoic structure to help us survive humankind or humanness. Really to be one is what we strive for.
Yeah.
And so
that's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I think one that's often missed is that it's the wholeness idea was here long before the Enneagram was. You know, that we're made in the image of God and what that looks like. Good. Okay, 4.
Okay, 4. 4 sometimes is known as the idealist, the individualist. 4s are intense in the feeling realm. And 4s don't want to conform to an image. They want to be unique. There's a sense of longing, of being unique, of being being different. You know, one of the things sometimes people will joke about with 4s, in their attempt to be unique, they become like other 4s. However, but 4s have a really rich and deep feeling of emotion. And a lot of it's internal. It's an internal. So 2s, the feeling and emotion is kind of externally focused. 3s, it's a suppressed, I don't want to feel.
Sure.
4s, it's an embrace of this feeling from the very depth to the very highest high. And
because the highs are high and the lows are low. Right.
And they can get attached to those feelings as reality. That is reality, not just a feeling, not just an emotion. So for 4s to grow, it's, oh yeah, I am feeling this, and reality is blank or, different than what the feeling might actually be. 4s tend to be really creative. They have a beautiful creative depth because of that ability to experience the whole spectrum of feelings.
And that can cycle through pretty quick.
Yes, it can, and they can get stuck.
Oh.
Yeah. It can cycle through quick, and they can get stuck. It can be difficult for a 4 to get out of bed.
Oh.
Oh, man. I have to get up, and I got to do something. I just want to feel. I want to be in this place.
Yeah.
They can, when 4s are able to maybe get outside of their own a little bit, their own feeling, they can be incredibly beautiful to share space with somebody else. Share those experiences, share those highs, share those lows. The work for the 4 in relationship is to experience the feeling, but not attach to it as what reality is. For partners, that can be challenging because they can get stuck in those feelings.
So if you're in a relationship with a 4, what's the best thing we can do to help them live into that tension?
Yeah, say, hey, acknowledge the feeling. Be there with them in the feeling and say, hey, do you recognize this? Are you seeing any of this? They may not. That may be difficult for them.
Saying stop being so dramatic is probably
no, that's probably not going to be a helpful thing. Yeah. But being there with them in the feeling can be really
super powerful.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, fives.
Fives, what words do people use? The thinker sometimes is used for the five. Fives are oftentimes in their head. Fives are looking for security or looking for they have a kind of a fear component.
Okay.
And fives look for security and knowledge.
So I mean, like research something 1,000 different ways to make sure that they're fully based in, that they can't be surprised.
Yes. And intellectual security is where they experience some balance, or some feelings of control is when I know and I understand something.
When you're in a relationship with a five, how does that play out? Because it feels like they might have a hard time connecting on a heart level.
They can very much so have a difficult time connecting on a heart level. Fives. So if I'm in a relationship with five, I need to give them space. I need to allow them to go. My 17-year-old is a five, and I have observed him. We'll have an experience, a shared experience as a family, and he will go and be by himself, and you can almost observe him going through that experience again. Okay, wow, we were at the beach, and he's replaying what was being at the beach like. So in his head, he's experiencing the physical. Wow, the sand was really fine. The salt air, I could feel it on my skin. So he's replaying and having this
super detail sounds like.
Yes, and having this rich experience in their head. So that's like a remembering. On the same token, if there's something that is required of him, he can oftentimes think through it and not act on it because he's already done it in his head. Right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so for them to show up and be present can be really difficult because they have this concern or this feel that too much is going to be expected of me, and I'm not going to get enough of a return, and I'm going to be spent. I'm going to be depleted from my energy. They're conservers of energy.
Now, you mentioned something about your teenager, which makes me wonder. I have a 13-year-old, almost 14-year-old. At what age can someone identify their number? I know we're not supposed to type other people, so it becomes a self-identification part of the process. Is my 13, almost 14-year-old?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, 12, 13, 14, depending on maturity. My daughter's 11. She's getting pretty close.
She's getting pretty close. Now, do you, as somebody who's in this world all the time, do you already kind of have an idea what?
Yeah, I have an idea, but I'm not gonna. I do not speak it out loud. My wife and I talk about it.
Sure.
And we discuss, but we say we want her to figure out her space.
We're in a podcasting booth right now, and I just feel the need to confess that I type people all the time.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I know it's not. I know we're not supposed to, but it's just like I know what you are, even if you don't know what you are.
I do it as well. And that's not bad because if we understand our own inner landscape, if we understand how we I can be uncomfortable in conflict. A hallmark of 7 is an avoidance of pain. Right, and conflict can feel like pain, so I can avoid conflict, shy away from it. I know you're sitting over there going, "What? Huh? Why not, man? Conflict is nothing wrong with that. It's not like you seek it out,
right? But
it does nothing. There's no fear of it.
It's a necessary part of life.
So for me to recognize that and go, oh, this is a tense situation, and I can feel myself physically trying to withdraw. I can stand into it because I recognize myself. And I don't necessarily have to say, oh, Tony's a type 8, I need to blah, blah, blah. I can just sense and recognize what's happening for me and maybe lean in a little bit in those spaces because I'm aware of myself.
Sure.
I mean, that's what it boils down to. Understanding somebody else's Enneagram type for sure can help the two of you, especially if you're both aware of your patterns of thinking, feeling,
Yeah.
behaving, be able to say, oh, no, with my wife, man, I recognize here I felt constricted. I felt pain. And so then I started doing these things because that's my habitual pattern. That it can be a powerful tool in communication.
I mean, it's been a tremendous gift for our marriage. Mine and Karen's is as she's dove deeper into her number, there are parts of it that I wouldn't have guessed that have come out that have been great talking points for us as we kind of jump into that. So that's
brings
good.
awareness.
Brings awareness. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Okay, 6.
6. Wait, let's go back real quick for 5s. It's really important for 5s to understand they have way more power than they might think.
Oh.
Both to be engaged intellectually, emotionally, they can do that and they won't get depleted. It's not that they still won't need probably more alone time, more time to process.
Recovering time,
but it's okay to engage. People will respect that.
It's the old G.I. Joe saying, knowing is half the battle.
Yeah.
Chances are good 5s are going to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. No, that's really helpful. 6s.
6s. Sometimes they're called the loyal skeptic. So we talked about 1s having this constant play in their head. I should, I need to, I can do this better. But 6s have a similar thing going on in their head, but they question everything. They question people's motives. They question their own motives. They question why this happens. So there's a constant questioning. They can have a difficult time finding an inner strength that says, this is the way. So I have a friend, he's a type 6. He wanted to buy a house. It took him 8 years.
Oh, wow.
8 years. And he found the right house, but he would go to a house and I just don't know about this. I don't know about this. I don't know about that. So a huge, there's a ton of questioning. When they make a decision, oftentimes they keep making the decision. So for some of us, we make a decision, we walk off and we go, okay. And if there was something wrong, we go, okay, all right, I learned from that. For 6s, it's man, did I really do the right thing there?
Is it buyer's remorse or is it more than that?
No, it's way more than that.
Okay.
It is a constant questioning, of the solidity even of the universe. Who can be trusted? I can't be trusted. Can the universe be trusted? Can God be trusted? I mean, there's a deep, powerful questioning about everything. And
so if you're in a relationship with someone like that feels, hearing you say that, I just like, oh man, that's a lot of work.
it can be. But so I've heard 6s describe love as consistency, loyalty.
Okay, just keep showing up.
Keep showing up. And 6s are really good at detecting somebody's BS.
Oh.
So you can't, they'll see through it. They'll know, they'll dig, they have a sense of that kind of stuff. They can sense danger. They know when danger's coming. They plan for it. They prepare for it. They know. And if you just keep showing up and you show up consistently and you're not blowing smoke and you just, hey man, I like you. You're a good dude. I want to, let's go have coffee. The next day, hey, how you doing? So it doesn't have to be every day, but a consistent showing up, being present, being loyal.
Over time.
When that happens and you're inside the 6 umbrella, they will do anything, and they are the most loyal friend, partner, whatever it might be that you can imagine.
Good. I love it. 7s. We talked about that a little bit already, but...
Yeah, so, 5s, 6s, and 7s kind of have some fear underlying in their issues. For type 7. It's a fear of constriction, a fear of pain, an avoidance of that pain, which becomes problematic. They're sometimes referred to as a glutton, an adventurer. So 7s can have this incredibly positive bend. Nothing's really a failure. It's an opportunity. if they are doing something it seems like it's about to get boring or it's about to fail, I'm just going to pivot and go on to the next thing that feels fun and enjoyable and excitement. So there's an avoidance of pain, an avoidance of this constriction, and a constant keeping open of options. It's really important for a 7 to sit in the difficult, to experience some of that and push through what could become dull, what could become boring, right? I mean, if you think about one of the ways I talk about this is a relationship, right? If I'm in a romantic relationship, those first 6 months, 3 months, whatever the duration is, it feels like euphoria.
Sure, yeah.
And for those of us who have been in longer relationships, we know that real beauty and real depth comes when we get past that. For 7s, that's kind of the story of life, right? 7s will oftentimes just experience those first 3 and 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Right? So I'm looking for that. I'm going to go find that. I'm going to go get that.
What's the next best thing?
Yeah. And when we sit and walk through, get through some of those things, we really are able to experience the pain and the joy and the whole kaleidoscope versus just continually looking for the.
So if you're in a relationship with a 7, what's the best way to serve them?
Pain, to hold space, to allow them to experience the feeling, be present to them, not go anywhere, just sit with them, let them experience it.
Invite them into it almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I identify as a type 7. It's really important that I not get shamed or somebody try to fix it. Because that's what I've tried to do my entire life is fix it. Like fix it by going to find something that feels pleasurable. And instead I need to experience it a little bit. I need to sit through it. I need to work through it.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't so much. but that's been, when I think about, for me personally, that's been probably one of the most powerful gifts of the Enneagram, is to understand that was my motivation. My life was driven around not experiencing constriction or pain. And so when I recognized that and I could see the pattern of, oh, this isn't fun anymore, I'm going to go find something else. Obviously, there are times when things aren't working and I need to do something else. But I had to develop the muscle memory to say, okay, this isn't working. Do I need to go to something else, or do I need to push through to get through the other side? Do I need to dig deeper? Do I need to dive in?
Am I avoiding, or is it a boundary issue?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes good sense to me. Okay, let's talk about the 8s.
The 8s. The 8s sometimes are called the boss.
Right.
8s have an underlying issue of anger. Control and power are really important to 8s. Not so much that they are in control. Well, I say it. Not so much that they're in power, but I don't want to have anybody to have power or control over me. I want to be in power and control of myself. And 8s oftentimes hide a really vulnerable interior with a strong kind of don't mess with me exterior. Energetically large presence for 8s. Like when 8s walk into a room, typically everybody recognizes that an 8 just walked into a room, right? They have an energetically large presence. People know when they're there. I've watched 8s who, they raise an eyebrow and people sit back in their chairs. Right? They just have that kind of
it's a presence, right?
Yeah. They can be seen as a bully.
Yeah.
Push people around. They're not afraid of conflict. The woman I study the Enneagram with, she likes to say that 8s either run a company or they're in prison. And there is some truth. There's a lot of really, right? We talked a little bit about historical figures, but like Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King was an 8. So was Joseph Stalin.
Wow.
As Gulf War era kind of guy, Norman Schwarzkopf, he was an 8. General George Patton, they're 8s, right?
Sure.
These big, strong,
larger than life
personas, and it, right, all of us have that propensity or ability for it to be used for good or not. For 8s, a lot of times that can be black and white.
So if you're in a relationship with an 8, and I have a lot of opinions about this, because if you're in a relationship with an 8, what's the best thing you can give them besides everything that they want?
Besides everything they want. In relationship with an 8, you need to recognize that really soft inside, and recognize that the exterior gruff is hiding that really soft interior. 8s don't take a lot of things personally, right? Conflict is just like you said, it's just part of life. Understand that standing your ground with an 8 is good. It's okay to say, this is who I am and this is where I am, and not allow yourself to get run over, and not allow them to run you over, but to hold on to what matters to you, and hold space and nurture that, really soft inside.
Yeah, one of the things I found in studying all of this about myself is that I really need people to be brutally honest with me, even if it's not what I want to hear.
Yeah.
That brutal honesty is such a gift to me, and it makes me feel like you love me.
Yeah, so we talked about the bullhorn.
Right.
Right, when in the 1 we talk in the little end and it comes out really loud. For an 8, we're talking in the big end and we're screaming, "Stop this. This is crazy. You're being an absolute bully." And whispered in the 8's ear is, "Hey, maybe there's something I should consider thinking about it being a small little issue." Right? So, yeah.
That's great. Okay, 9s. This one's super important because my wife identifies as a 9.
Yeah.
So I'm taking all the notes.
9s, I'm trying to think of the words sometimes people use for 9. Peacemaker, moderator.
Yeah,
moderator. Yeah. Sometimes they can look like type 2, but the motivation is different. Type 2s blend in.
Yeah.
For sure, they put everybody else's needs first. It can be exhausting for a 9 to kind of be the moderator, the peacemaker, and sense everybody else's needs. They also have a difficult time finding out what they need, what's important to them. But they're not actively like a 2.
Yeah, 2's trying to serve. A 9's not necessarily looking.
Just trying to make the
we're just trying to make everything peaceful.
They also have an underlying sense of anger. There's anger underlying the 9, and it kind of comes out in little spurts. I've heard 9s talk about, if I'm upset with somebody at work, I'll still do what they want, but I might drag it out just a little bit.
Okay.
Some passive aggressive.
My wife is more aggressive.
Okay. So she may have a little...
She's a 9-wing 8.
Yeah. So a little more of that 8 flavor. But 9s tend to be a little more, kind of passive aggressive.
Sure.
I've not ever met a 9 I didn't think was nice.
Oh.
9s are really nice people. They're really good listeners because they're really good at hearing
both sides of the discussion.
All sides.
Right,
all sides of discussion. 9s can be incredible leaders. Dwight Eisenhower, type 9. Abraham Lincoln, type 9. So they can have a really strong resoluteness, but they also, 9, the book written about Lincoln on leadership, and I forget the title of the book, but essentially he filled his cabinet with people who didn't agree with him, who were different than him. And he was able to take in all of the various opinions, thoughts, positions, and find a way forward. And that's a hallmark of a 9, that ability to find common ground. They can lose themselves, though, in that. And that's where a 9 needs to, similar to a 2, find what matters to them.
And then stick to it.
Yeah.
And so then the gift is similar in the sense that to help them identify what they need in that process.
Yeah.
That's good.
A 9, let's say a 9 mom, who who does everything she can for everybody else, doesn't get her nails done, or doesn't take time to get her hair done, or, take time to experience her friends or in something that she likes to do. She's always trying to please somebody else. A type 9 father, same thing. I do everything for everybody else except for me. And at times they'll narc out, then they'll find a way to veg out, to check out, to kind of just veg in order to kind of recharge, because they get exhausted taking care of everybody else's needs.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you know what? My wife's a project manager, and so she's perfect at it, and she's an incredible leader in that sense, that she listens to both sides and then does usually find a way to make it work. And I'm like, babe, just tell them.
Right. Yeah.
Just tell them this
is the way we're going to do it.
It's not even, I don't understand. Yeah. Why do you care what that person thinks?
And 9s, it can be really difficult to have a direct conversation with somebody. They will, when I have found I'll be talking to a 9, so a little insight. Hey, how do you feel about doing this? It's fine. That really means I don't like that idea at all. I mean, a lot of times that for a 9, that will be the case, because they do not want to upset somebody. They want to have peace. It's okay.
Can I tell you a secret? That it's not really a secret, but sometimes I'll say, where do you want to go to dinner? And my wife will say, I don't care. And then I purposely pick places that I know she hates to eat at to make her pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a
jerk move, Milton Berger.
But that's a perfect example.
It's wonderful. It's good. Okay, so those are the 9 types. What else do we need to know about the Enneagram for relationships, like for spousal relationships and for work relationships? Because I think if you really dive into this stuff, and it doesn't even have to be a deep dive, it can be a shallow dive, because this hole goes very deep. It's expansive. What do we need to know about spousal relationships and work relationships?
I would say first focus on yourself.
Okay.
Understand yourself. When we understand ourselves and our motivations, our habitual patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving, when the focus starts there, then we can begin to unpack and understand relationship with others. So, at work, if you've gone through an Enneagram training and you know your coworkers' types, you can begin to have conscious conversation about that and lay it out. Hey, I was thinking about this, and I recognize that as a 7, I didn't, blah, blah, whatever it might be. The other person might respond, when I heard you say this, I was reacting in my habitual pattern, and this is what I heard. You can have those conscious conversations. But if you don't have that, you just got to focus on yourself. You got to focus on your own piece. If you're in relationship, your partner has an understanding of their type, I think it can be a really great conversation starter or opportunity to use the tool to say, hey, when we went to our financial planner, I was, if I'm a type 6, I was just scared. We're going to run out of money. We're not going to have enough. Whatever it may be, that constant questioning. I don't know if I can trust them. I don't know if this is the right mix. I don't know, right? And the 3 is, we need to make a decision. We need to get going.
Yeah.
Let's stop ruminating on this. Let's go. So understanding those opposing motivations can help you find and bridge and at least have honest conversation, open conversation, and listen to the nuance, right? I just said to you, when your wife says, I don't care, she does care. And you're poking the bear.
She always cares.
Right, yeah. And she doesn't, she wants to keep peace. So when we recognize that, we can begin to step outside of our own type, our own habitual, and begin to understand what others.
So as we work on ourselves, let's say that we do a little bit of study here, we read a couple books, and we feel like we're waffling between 2 numbers. Like one person says we're a 7. One time we feel like a 7. One time we feel like a 3 or a 2 or a 9, you know, some of those numbers feel pretty close, right? An 8 and a 3 sometimes.
Yep.
How do we know which number, and I'm going to use air quotes because they work so well on podcasts, is right?
Motivation.
Okay.
The underlying motivation.
So how do we assess our own motivation in this process?
It can be tricky.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's easy for us to fool ourselves on why we're really doing something. So sometimes trusted friends can help in that space. Somebody who, you know, has been with us a while, knows kind of some of the habitual stuff we have done.
Sure.
Can help.
An accountability partner.
An accountability partner
Right.
can help poke on that a little bit. But if we are honest with ourselves about our motivation, that's usually the key insight. So for the difference between an 8 and a 3, which can look alike, is the 3 is going to say, yeah, I really do this for my image. I really do this to, you know, project an image of success, to be seen as an achiever. Whereas the 8 is saying, man, I just don't want anybody to control me. I need to have the power here. I need to be in charge.
Right.
Right? The 3 wants to be in charge because they want to be seen as successful. They want to be the CEO because they want to be seen as successful. They've achieved the status. The 8's like, man, I just want to be in control. I want to have power here, right? So when we understand that motivation, it helps. Both, by the way, 3s and 8s are both very active types, right?
Yeah.
They go. There's
Sure.
not a lot. So that's why sometimes they can be seen as similar because they're going.
Well, a lot of the 3 resonates with
Sure.
things that, like, I'm super competitive and, like, you know, the best way to get me to do something is tell me I can't do it,
Yes.
you know,
Right.
and like, so, but the motivation is the key, I think.
Yeah.
It is the key. So I am curious about how our Enneagrams play out in our relationship with God. Because I mean, the reality is if our habitual patterns show up with all the people in our life, then they're going to show up with God. In your experience, to the level whichever you feel comfortable answering, how do we navigate our Enneagram type in our relationship with God?
It starts with awareness. I think I have a couple things that I caveat this with, that I'm not God.
Right. I'm
One.
glad you.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. And that the wholeness in if I'm going to interact with God, understanding I'm not, and understanding that I have a habitual way of behaving, a habitual way of thinking, and that is going to be the how I interact, but begin to again explore that oneness, that wholeness of that. It's okay for me to have my own internal power. It's good for me to have an internal moral compass. It's good for me, and God has this beautiful giving, this achieving, this depth and breadth of emotion and feeling, this intellectual side, this questioning side, this fun, adventurous, spirited side, all of these, this peacemaker, that I can explore all of those as I see God, experience God, relate to God, relate to His creation, my fellow.
That's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's such an important reminder is that if you can remember how big God is, then you're not going to give God, like if God starts to look like an 8 all the time, that's probably more of a Tony problem than it is a God problem, which is almost always the case.
Right, and we put our own filter and lens on God, so God always, for me, looked like a specific thing. I related to God as a God that there were rules that I needed to follow, and as a 7, I didn't really want to follow the rules. I didn't really want to, and so I struggled with that. And when I recognized that that's not how this rolls, I can't comprehend the wholeness of God. So allowing for that space to say, man, I'm here. I have, the pin-size view of what God, the universe, the whole is. How do I help expand that to just say, here I am, how do I create that relationship? How do I, what's the openness to experience that? Because I experience that, my Enneagram type it limits my ability to experience life. When I am in my type, I am limited in what I experience in relationship with God, in relationship with people, with my wife, at work, all of those things. When I am aware of the pattern of my Enneagram type, of my personality, then I'm able to experience things as they are, not as I want them to be. Right? This notion that we believe what we see. No, we see what we believe. When I'm in my type,
Sure.
I see what my type wants me to see.
It's the lens.
Yeah.
It's the lens.
It's just the lens.
That's great. That's great. So I know that there's somebody who's on the treadmill right now and they're listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing stuff. Where would you tell my listeners to start when it comes to exploring the Enneagram? What resource are you like, this is the one that's got to get in your hand, and we'll link to it in the show notes?
I'll list a couple.
Okay.
From a professional standpoint, the work I do, you can go to consciousdynamicsllc.com.
Okay.
You can take a test there. You can find how to get in touch with me, with the other consultants in our practice, consciousdynamicsllc.com. There is an Enneagram school located in Cincinnati area called it's called the Conscious Living Center. It's goconscious.com.
Okay.
Another good one is the Enneagram Institute. Was founded by Russ Hudson and Don
Sure.
Rizzo. Really great material there, place to explore. The International Enneagram Association. I forget the website name, but I'll get
we'll
it to
look
you.
it up. Yeah,
But if you just Google International Enneagram Association, there's a lot of really good information. It's a good launch pad to find resources around the world.
That's incredible. Good. Okay, so the last question I always love to ask my guests is you've done, over the years, you've done a lot of just self-awareness training. And so if you were going to go back and talk to David as he gets ready to enlist in the Army, right, if you're going to go back and give yourself one piece of advice, knowing everything you know now after all the years, which you just turned 50, so happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah.
And now the whole world knows.
Thanks, yeah.
If you were going to go back and give young Private David one piece of advice, what would it be?
You're okay. You're okay. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I love it. And, there's probably somebody out there that needs to hear that today. You're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay just the way you are.
Just the way you are.
Just the way you are. And
You don't need anything on the outside. You're okay.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tony.
For taking the time today. Are you social media? Are you on any of the interwebs?
Yeah, Twitter,
Twitter,
Instagram, Sharp1969.
Good. We'll link to it all in the show notes. And thank you for the gift of your time and your wisdom today. And I can't wait to see how this continues to impact people and see you do your work, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
Well, guys, that does it for another episode of the Reclamation Podcast. I'm so excited that you got to hear this incredible conversation with David. I know he blessed you as much as he blessed me. What I appreciated about David's approach is that he took a very kind of pragmatic, tool-based look at the Enneagram. I encourage you to check him out on the interwebs. Check him out wherever you look for Enneagram stuff, Conscious Dynamics Living. We'll link to all of that in the show notes. Another book that I recommend is The Road Back to You by Susan Stabile. We read that as a staff team. So good. There's so many resources out there right now because it's such a popular topic. So I hope you enjoy. And until next week, continue leaning in, making good practices to balance faith and life.